Hi, welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the Healing Differently podcast. And in this episode, I'd like to do something else. I'd like to go a little bit deeper, say some more controversial stuff as if I don't say enough of it. And to start, every once in a while, when someone healed with the release process, I received the question that they need more content that tells them how to live your life, what to do with your life when you're actually healthy. I don't know. I'm also just a guy figuring things out. And I figured the release process out. The release process is basically when you have chronic symptoms that we can find what kind of thing or emotion or thought it is that you're resisting. And by focusing upon it, your symptoms increase. And then by processing it, your symptoms disappear. So I already thought that would be enough. But probably not. So let's dive into this question in this podcast. What a beautiful intro, isn't it? And if you hear someone crying, that could be my dog. He is sitting right next to me and he wants to go outside and hunt ducks. And I don't allow him. And that's also a funny thing to start the podcast with. What I like about podcast is that I don't have to show my face on a camera because I actually don't like that. I can just sit, lay back, and hopefully you as well. So my dog doesn't make any compromises when it comes to being himself. He is. And part of that is his urge to hunt, or right now, his urge to cry. He doesn't make any compromises. But we humans, we do. We constrain ourselves. And before we can limit and constrain ourselves, we had to have lots of thoughts and beliefs. How should you behave? What is expected? And how can I survive? I mean, that's basically what it is. And part of surviving is being part of a group, a family, especially as a young child. So what are the things that you should do in order to belong, to receive love, to have food, to have shelter, and to make it through your life? Maybe you have to do certain things that are not in alignment with your purest expression of yourself. Let's say you want to be sexually very active, have multiple partners, and just enjoy yourself with man or female or both. Maybe you just want to completely let go. But is that expected? Would you be condemned? Would your partner like that? Are you afraid your partner would dislike you, leave you? You see, there already we have a problem between the purest expression of your soul and what you're actually doing. Now, I know that some of the things that we desire, maybe even sexually as well, are part of coping mechanisms. But then we have to go a step back. But before we do that, a coping mechanism is something that you do in order to avoid feeling something. And every time when you suppress an urge inside of you for the sake of something else, you're going to swallow something. Let it be an emotion, or a desire, or a hope, or a thought. And that makes you feel uncomfortable. Then you're actually denying a part of yourself. And that part of yourself is going to feel bad. But you want to feel good. So then trying to feel good when you feel bad becomes a coping mechanism. So you should feel bad instead and allow that what is inside you, an aspect of you that feels unheard, unseen, unloved, unappreciated, etc. So part of being free is allowing everything that you dislike. So coming back at the purest expression of your soul, feeling extreme hate, disgust, feeling extremely sad, crying, everything feels pointless. Maybe rage against your mother for loving you, rage against your children for being dependent or being so innocent, rage against society, disgust to ourselves for joining them, disgusted about showing a mask of who you are not, overwhelming feelings of shame, but also of joy, of pleasure, of complete letting go, being in the moment, having no thoughts, and completely dissolve yourself in every action that you can do. That's what the purest expression of your soul can be. And feeling good only happens after allowing feeling bad. Feelings come together, and when you dislike certain feelings, you store them, and you wait until the moment comes when you're brave enough to express and feel it. And in the meantime, it becomes harder and harder to feel good, to let yourself go. And you feel more and more constrained, imprisoned maybe by a life of control, controlling yourself into not doing your deepest desires, into not letting go. And therefore, our entire society can maybe represent actions of fear, and doing them will always result in more misery. For example, when you buy a house and you take a mortgage that you can hardly pay, and only with 2 incomes can you get the mortgage. And every month you have to pay 70% of your income to the bank. So then you can hardly buy food, and every month becomes a struggle. And that's because you did something out of fear. You wanted a house, you were afraid of not getting a house. And therefore you conform to society, which is completely based around fear. And I'm not against society, not at all. But I am always pro-freedom and pro-life. I think that there are 2 forces on this planet. One force is pro-life, and I'm not talking here about abortion. And one force is anti-life. It's against it. And there are reasons to be against life. What would the expression of you or someone else be? When you let yourself completely go, when you're fully enraged by something, you could murder someone. Would you do that? Or not? Would you constrain this energy and store it inside of your body? And if you're not talking about yourself, maybe about others, maybe the neighbor, maybe we need laws to control humanity, to control ourselves, and to constrain ourselves into doing weird things. And we should conform to the rules that we have as a society, even though the majority of people are not feeling well. 80% of everyone in society has a chronic disease. That's a lot. We have a life force inside of us, and it wants us to express it. Of course, there can be certain rules, like don't harm other people. But other than that, what could be so bad about it? You might see on the television that there is a dictator in another country, a country that happens to have a lot of oil, and he's treating his people very bad. And we need soldiers, and we need you to vote for a political party that allows us to send weapons to fight for the right cause. And if you do so, a lot of people will become rich. People who own, for example, parts of these companies that can profit, maybe during war with weapons, or afterwards with the oil, or building up a country again. The thing is, though, that you need to comply, because otherwise this dictator might influence your life. He might invade your country, and their soldiers can murder your mother or father or children. There is a force that is anti-life, that wants you in the fight or flight mechanism of the nervous system. Because in that place, you can't think rationally. You will be presented with a case that might frighten you. And that possible scenario is, of course, not great. Or maybe you even see pictures on television of something that doesn't feel right. And there it is, the solution. They present you something that we can do as a species, as humanity, as a society. Something good, something that prevents this from happening. And before you know it, you made the choice. I will comply. Compliance. I will join this movement against something that can happen, something that maybe is happening, or maybe something that is just an illusion. And this happens on a small scale or a big scale. So you can be part of the anti-life group and you can be part of the pro-life group, both at the same time. And the thing is, though, to which group do you want to belong? Silence. Let's think about it. And of course, you're going to answer that you want to be part of the good guys, the cowboys with the white hats. You want to be pro-life. But what does that really mean? Can you trust humanity and yourself and your family and your neighbors to have no rules? Can you do that? And can you also like, subscribe, and rate it on platforms such as Spotify? Because that would also be really helpful for me. So then there is also the part of you that is anti-life, that wants to constrain, contain, and hold things and preserve things. Maybe there is already a part inside of you that is influenced by this divide and conquer principle, this camp versus that camp, and you are in the good camp. But most of all, there is a part of you that is always triggered by certain information and put back in survival mode to not think clearly. And from that place, you will make the most horrific decisions. And the results of those actions, you can ignore it. We can pretend that it did not happen. We can change channels. Oh, we don't like this channel. Let's move to this television show where it's all about fake laughs and stupid games. Let's do that instead, to distract ourselves from the feelings that we have inside of ourselves that are just so painful. Maybe something that is so rejected, so suppressed, that it will come up only in an 8-day retreat of Vipassana. Vipassana is when you're in complete silence, very uncomfortable. Maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And at one point, when you don't distract, everything is going to come up. And when your brain is then in a state of unconscious resistance because you have programmed yourself to not engage with certain aspects of yourself and certain emotions, then of course you're going to expect symptoms. So symptoms and chronic disease is always a consequence of anti-life force. A force from the cowboy with the black hat. So if this is a movie between forces of good, the cowboy with the white hat, against the forces of evil, constraint, constriction, a cowboy with the black hat, evil, then we're all cheering for the cowboy with the white hat. Life must prevail. The good side must win. But what if there is no cowboy with the black hat? Then everything is fine. We're all ecstatically enjoying ourselves, completely letting go, no negative consequences. It can become a big orgy, or ecstatic dance, or a festival, or love. It can be so beautiful. In this simulation, we don't really play the part of being in heaven. We're here to see what we're made of, to see how much of a spine we have, how much we can control ourselves and contain ourselves into limited beliefs, and how we can rise above it. And therefore, part of the game is that there is a force anti-life. Some people are embodying pro-life, and some people are embodying anti-life. These people usually pray to a different god, and they are doing whatever they can to manipulate people into wars, into trauma, etc., etc. And I used to encounter this group of people when I was only 5 years old. And they had only one purpose at that moment, and that was to traumatize me and traumatize other children. And they did that because they were grooming their own children for positions of power. But of course, when I was 5 years old, I didn't understand anything. It was just overwhelm, extreme trauma. I had to shut down. I had to enter the freeze response of the nervous system. And of course, there is more trauma going on, generational trauma, etc. So then I arrived in a family that did not understand holding space, being there for each other, emotional expression. And therefore, I grew up in a way where I was completely shut off from myself. In the first 10 years, I was traumatized. In the next decade, I was just trying to become all right. In my 20s, I had a fear disorder and even an eating disorder, something that I would have never admit at that time. And then, after my 30th birthday in 2014, I developed a chronic disease. My body was letting me know that I can't go any further and that the time has come to turn around, to see how I am constraining myself, to let go of all the emotions and to reconnect with all the feelings of pain and disconnect, shame, disgust, anger. There was just too much of it, and my brain shut down. I entered the freeze response of the nervous system. The limbic brain created symptoms to protect me against all the overwhelming sensations and feelings inside of my body. And I stayed stuck. And now I'm 40. I'm 40 years old. Another decade has passed. And the last decade was about learning to deal with my chronic disease and trying to figure out what symptoms really mean and how to heal and how to heal other people. And that had become an obsession, especially in the last few years. And right now I've come to a point where I'm no longer obsessed. And that's hard, actually, because I was always so passionate. I was always so involved thinking about it. And now I've come to a point where I want to leave it all behind. That doesn't mean that I will stop doing this work, but I have to learn in my own way, in my own life, how to do things without pressure, how to be more in the flow, how to be more accepting and loving to myself, to completely let go of all the constraints that I'm still having. And when you do that, you get out of your own mind. You're out of your mind. You become crazy. I will become a lunatic. I will become weird. It's difficult then to describe how I would be. Who am I without any form of control? If I don't hurt any other people, who am I? What do I want sexually? What do I want to do with my life? How can I live the most ecstatic life, where I feel so much joy and in the moment? A life where I can cry about small things, to be really sad, to be really angry, and to really let the fullest of my soul express itself in this world. And it's actually pretty frightening. I don't know what will happen. I don't know if I'm able to do that. I don't know if I'm just too conditioned. What I do know, however, is that we're living in a simulation, and that when our energies become aligned and when we express ourselves fully, when we allow ourselves to be completely overwhelmed with good feelings or bad feelings, to then have after that feelings of extreme silence and peace, we can set intentions and visualize things that we want to experience, and then connect that with positive feelings to wait, and then it will manifest. Crazy things can manifest. I've had so many great experience with that. At the same time, I don't want to manifest out of lack. People want to manifest money because they are feeling that they don't have money. That's a coping mechanism. And coping mechanisms are part of the force anti-life. Therefore, the group of people that are anti-life, they're all focused on power, focused on money, possessions, all of these things. Because all of these things should compensate the feelings that they have inside of themselves. So when these children have been groomed and exposed to extreme trauma, they can be molded into doing the right kind of coping mechanisms. And that's controlling other people. Maybe they can become the boss of a news channel that is there to influence you into making or agreeing with certain things. Things that are anti-life, about violence, control, manipulation, etc. Ask yourself, what do you want from life? And be okay with everything that you're mentioning being a coping mechanism. So you want to have safety because you feel afraid. You want to have a lot of money because you don't feel safe. You want to have power because you feel weak. You want to be famous because you feel unseen. You want to be loved by other women because you feel unloved. Maybe you'd want a television to watch series so that you can be distracted. So the first part is to heal. And healing comes from becoming whole again. Becoming whole with all the things that you don't want. Feeling unloved, unseen, unheard. Where do you feel that? Focus up on it. Really let it go in your mind and feel it and move on it, on music. Feeling unloved, how does that feel? Where does that resonate inside of your body? Ignore the mind-body symptoms in your arms and legs and back and neck and head. Feel it emotionally in your body. And maybe when you do that, you get some symptoms because the brain will protect you against it. That's a good thing. So then you know exactly what is causing your symptoms. Try to feel it every day a little bit better. And at one point, you will feel the overwhelming sensations behind it. And maybe you have to grieve, laugh, cry, shiver, shake, vomit. Allow it. Try seeing yourself as a vessel to express your soul. And when you're in a chronic disease, when you need to heal, when you need to become whole with certain feelings, then allow these negative feelings. Because we can play the distraction game and the waiting game for 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. Hell, you can even die with it. You can let this game of not wanting to heal last your entire life. Or we cut the crap, we move away from all the reasons why you should not do it, and we connect with everything that is inside of us. What happens then is a wave pattern of healing, with feeling good, feeling bad, feeling good, feeling bad, having symptoms, releasing, you name it. So embark upon this journey and move every day a little bit closer to your desired life. Learn to have joy. And when you can't have joy, Accept it. Surrender to it. Joy is a distant friend that maybe comes only once in a while. Or maybe joy is who you really are when you let go of all the layers that are the opposite of joy. If you would heal in a day, then this game is too simple. But if there are many distractions, many influences, having a lockdown, another fever, another COVID infection, a breakup, those are the moments that challenge you. Those are the moments that show you what you're made of. And if you are weak, when you give in to society and other people's opinions and thoughts or beliefs or desires, then notice that. I am weak. Allow that completely. Don't pretend that it's not true. Don't look at this television giving you more input in how to manipulate you. Feel it. Be weak. Because for most people, this is exactly what they need to do in order to heal. What is there right now? What are you not seeing? Maybe you're an adult living with your parents. So that is actually quite sad, isn't it? So yeah, allow that. Maybe you're weak. Maybe you are unheard, unseen. Maybe you are ridiculed by others. Allow the triggers. Make the most out of it. Because if you are waiting, then life will wait for you as well. And I've learned the hard way that you can be bedbound for years. But life will always try to find a way to break through. If you're not completely fighting yourself, then there is hope. There is already a seed that is planted inside of you. And the seed is growing and growing and growing. It's coming out. And it's maybe painful to go through all of those layers. But at one point, it will break through the soil and you will see the sun. Maybe it's still a cloudy day, but at one point the sun will come through and you will feel touched by life. Let it just be 1 second. That second can become 2 seconds and you can really absorb it like a plant and let the power grow inside of you until you become a strong tree, unmovable, unshakable. But fortunately, we have 2 legs, so we can move, we can travel. You can become a traveling mountain. So express yourself and be very, very honest. What kind of things disgust you to the bone? Which kind of people do you absolutely hate? What do you absolutely hate and disgust about yourself? Can you feel the despair of not going anywhere? The sadness of being stuck? Can you allow yourself to be completely angry against maybe the people that you actually love? Like your parents, your lover, your husband, your partner, your children? Can you feel that through? Can you make hate move through your body, that it is in every vein of you? And don't be afraid that you will manifest more of those negative things. Because now you're talking again from a place of constriction, of rules, thoughts, and beliefs. This is bad and this is good. You can also see it in a different way. Let's say you believe in manifestation and you don't want to manifest bad things. Well, the things that you are not aware of that are in your body, like extreme disgust, extreme hatred, they might manifest themselves. Because as within, so without. So they come in your life. Maybe only to show you what is inside of you. So that you can release it and be done with it and create a fuller life, a better life. So either you will manifest exactly that, what you need to be triggered with all the horrible feelings that you have inside of you. Or you do it yourself every day, just a few minutes, let's say 20, 30, or 40, or even an hour if you feel really bad. To get it out of your system so that you don't have to manifest it, so that you can manifest more joy. And after releasing these difficult feelings, you're going to feel more joy. Joy becomes easier. It grows like a plant. It grows in your life. And after winter, spring will come, the sun will break through even more. And then it will become summer and everything will flourish. And at one point, winter is coming and death is waiting for us. But I hope that you've lived yourself to the fullest, that you've made mistakes, and that you fell through the consequences of it and all the bad feelings so that you can immediately let go and feel the good feelings again. So ask yourself, what is it that you really, really want from the deepest of your soul? And don't say any coping mechanism, but what is it that you really want? Some people mention that they don't know what they want. Maybe that's just ridicule. Maybe you know exactly what you want. Most children do. The dream that I have inside of me was planted before I was 10 years old. And since then, I know exactly what I want with my life. And I've not succeeded yet. So it's a journey. But be very, very clear about your desires that probably were there already when you were a child. Now you have suppressed it. That's okay. But feel it again. Feel the desires of your soul. What are you here for? Find ways to eventually manifest this. See it as a stairs. You know what the end destination of the stairs is. So what's the first step? And when you take the first step, look around. What's the second step? So by waiting, my dog is completely blissed out. It's lying on its back, having one paw in its mouth, making sounds of complete joy. He felt through his pain of not being allowed to hunt the duck. And now he's completely blissed out. I hope you're blissed out too. Have a beautiful healing journey.